Hello everybody, with this movie, my first YouTube movie by the way, I want to give some information about the gunner, about how I use the gunner. So this does not mean this is the way everybody should use the gunner, or this is the best way to use the gunner. This is how I use the gunner and how I feel comfortable with it. So I make this YouTube movie for our Pantheon, the silent Eclipse. So to start with, let me show you a little bit how is my setup. So if you see here, as the main hand weapon, I use the Vortex hand cannon. So of course to buff the missile salvo, which is the burst one, the burst rotation. So of course this is a must have. Then for the offhand, I use the one who increase the rapid fire. So this is mostly for the AoE, but if you have packs for more than 2, you will use this, and also this will then help to build up your heat, because rotation is all about building up heat so you can do your missile stance again. So that's offhand weapon. So for the amulets, I try to use as much as possible amulets that increase the full auto damage, because you cannot get around using full auto to build up heat. And of course the other one to build up heat is the rapid fire. So I try to use those that are helping to increase my damage when I build up heat. So that's for the amulets. For the rings, I use a full strength Valor build. So basically all the rings have strength, Valor, accuracy, temper. Later I will talk a little bit about the alternate build, which is around basically strength, luck and Valor luck, which becomes, I believe, more viable when you start getting the orange upgrades available for the provinces, because then a little bit this build becomes more limited to expand the buffs. So I will talk about that a little bit later, but so far in the test I did, if you don't have the oranges, the output is actually quite similar. While the strength Valor give more stable output, the luck one is more dependent on luck. So it seems to more vary a little bit, but in general the results are the same. So that's a little bit the equipment build up. We will also look a little bit in abilities. Just for symbols, it doesn't matter so much. You use basically all the DPS symbols. You can notice I don't use the gunner symbol. The only, besides that useful symbol that I use, is the dash one, which is quite useful when you do invasions. So you can dash, always get a kind of shield up when you do AoE for these packs that you always face there. So that's a little bit about the abilities. If you look a little bit about my provinces, what I use there is, let's look at the patrons one. So I use the Valor ones, as you see, for the upgrades, which is new now for the adapt missions. So I use that one as much as possible. So the next one I also gonna use that. So I increase, because I'm a full strength Valor build. So that's, if you look a little bit at what I use there, so I use critical chance, accuracy. The reason why this one is there is because I can be flexible then later to use the luck build. So that's why I have here one optimizer. So the second one I use accuracy. The third one I use crushing blow. The fourth one I use solidity, because solidity increases your might. And it's basically the only useful one here. I don't need to take temper here, because I already maximized my temper because of my strength Valor build, which always have temper as a bonus. So that's why actually later when you have the orange, you're gonna use those ones to increase the temper here, and because you don't have this on the strength luck rings. So then the next one I use accuracy, temper. So this is basically to achieve my 50%. Actually I go a little bit over. Then here I use the persistence one. So this was a new one. So persistence increased the damage when it's it only has 1/3 of health available. So basically this is, yeah, there's some debate if this is very useful or not. In the strength luck one you're not going to use it. Here you will use it. It's good for long fights and when the boss has still a lot of health yet left, but in the fast burst fights when the boss goes fast down, it's not so interesting. Then the next one you have a crushing blow one, and then the next one I have a solidity one. So that's a little bit my build up. So if we then look a little bit at my rotation, so of course you will always start with the missile one. So I also, oh, I forgot, before I start that I should also show you my abilities, what I use. So if we look at my abilities in the gun, so I use the plasma beam. So this is to do a very fast rotation of heat builds up and release. So 5-time plasma beam will do that, and it still do quite good damage. I use fire blast. So this is mostly what I start for single fights, or also if I have them in line. Then I use the plasma field. I basically don't use it so much. I only use it for AoE, for big packs, because it's dot. Then I use minoring because this will increase my single target attack. And then of course projectile synthesizers. This is for your initial burst damage opening to increase that. If you look at my talents, there's not so much here. I use the auto aim one, but that one is not so important, I believe, because on boss fights this is mainly for PvE. For boss fights this is they cannot be fear blind or disorientated, so it doesn't increase damage there. I still use the armor plate generation because it's quite useful for solo stuff. The experimental fuel I use because it creates quite some damage if you have them in line and it's a dot. I use the pulse shot. Yeah, this is actually, it's not so the plasma beam, it's just increased range and that you get some more damage, so I basically try to focus on getting increased damage. So this is quite important because it extends your projectiles by 5, so you can do more burst damage in the beginning and when you repeat it. This is must have for your opening, for your burst damage with your missile salvo. Then I use this one again to have some increased damage, and then I use this one so you can continue, again very useful for solo. You can continue especially for the AoE one, the rapid fire. You can continue just to run through solo instances and keep firing away. This one I used to have, I don't use it anymore because yeah, it's only used for AoE, and I really focus on the raids, boss fights, to get good output there. So that's basically that. So let's go back now to the opening, what I use for opening. So basically I start with minoring, I immediately do my increased projectiles, and then I fire away this until empty. I don't repeat my minoring here. Sometimes I do it, but in general I don't repeat it here because mostly you get too fast out, so you don't get the increased buff. So you can see the damage. I get about 4 million of damage with this type of set for the burst damage. Then for the rotation, for the build up of damage, so what I do is I start, let's wait till he reset. I start with the opening of the fire blast, and then I use full auto till I'm full of heat. Then I change and I do 5 times the fire, the beam, until empty, and then I change again. The moment you see it's on cooldown, I open it, so I get again more missiles, and then I continue to offload heat again. Five times, repeat that again, and you see this increase the fast cooldown of to get your extra missiles. I always forget the names of those abilities. I should have prepared that. So you can see how fast it goes down when I offload the heat, and now I can start my stance again. Okay, so sometimes you wait to use the stance because you wait for the buffs of the support so that you do all the extra damage. So basically this is a little bit of rotation for boss fights. So wait till empty again, and then you start again to do the heat rotations. So that's a little bit that. So I'm gonna stop this. So now let's look a little bit at the build. So you saw I did 4 million of damage with the strength Valor one. So what I do now is I'm gonna change to another build. So this is the equipment one. So I go now to the third one. So as you see it now, this is a strength luck build. So if you go back a little bit to the first one and look at the stats, so I have accuracy here 65%, I have temper 50%, critical chance 26%. So now I will go to the luck build. So you see now the rings I use are strength luck, accuracy and crit, another strength luck, accuracy and crit, and then Valor luck, critical chance and temper, Valor luck, critical chance and temper. So then I also need to set up my provinces. Sorry. So in provinces actually a lot stay the same. Solidity is okay, accuracy stay the same, crushing blow I leave, I don't increase my crit here. This is the one I need to change to temper, so I get at least for temper 44.7. then I have another temper here, yes, 44.7, and the rest stay the same. Crushing blow stay here. I forgot one. Where is the one? Sorry, this one I changed to. So I use persistent ones with the strength Valor one, because this is still quite useful for certain fights. But for the luck one, I changed it to critical chance to increase crit chance. And then also I need to go to this one, and I change this one to the luck 1 to of course have more damage for luck. So let's see a little bit how we do with that build. Same thing again. And in the rotation it's quite similar. I could also check the rotation, but I thought I would have more better results with luck, but I get similar results basically. And if you look at the damage now, you can see it's 4.2 million, but it varies. I mean, it could be 4, it could be 3.8, so the damage is quite similar. So that's a little bit, I think this should give you enough information on how I use the gunner. It's not the best, but it's what I feel good with, comfortable with, to do both raids as well as a lot of single instances. Bye bye.